Hi, I'm Kate Krieger-Watkins here with The Scoop for Mason County Press, and this edition of The Scoop is brought to you by Great Lakes Automotive and Mix Truck Parts, which is located on US 10 between Ludington and Scottville. And I am joined today with Dr. Rick Plummer, I'll get to you in a second, and Xavier Verna, the Executive Director of the Ramsdale Center of Arts. Is that what is your actual?
Ramsdale Regional Center for the Arts. It's a mouthful.
Regional Center of the Arts. And we're here with you both today because Dr. Plummer, I'm going to call you Dr. Plummer.
Well,
that's how I know you. For those who don't know Dr. Rick Plummer, he was the performing arts professor at West Shore Community College for how many years?
20.
20 years. And then went on to the Mason County Historical Society.
That's right.
And then the Maritime Museum.
Well,
is that kind of intertwined?
The Mason County Historical Society operates two museums. Our Living History Museum, Historic White Pine Village, and Port of Ludington Maritime Museum, as well as the Research Library. So it all falls under the umbrella of the Historical Society.
I wasn't sure about that, so I'm glad you actually told me that. So, and you are performing a one-man show that you wrote in 2002?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've been working on it for some time before then. I did my doctoral dissertation on this kind of play, on these one-man, one-woman historical dramas. Studied with a guy who had written the only book out there on it, and started writing it back then, but only finished it in 2002. We premiered it at the college in 2002.
Wow, that's great. And it's called Live from the Front, Byline Ernie Pyle.
Exactly.
I'm going to switch over to you. What can you tell people about this performance and what they can expect and having it here at the Ramsdale?
Well, we're lucky to have it at the Ramsdale. You know, we're very excited. We've worked with Rick on a number of shows already. He's directed and choreographed a lot of the shows during Sleigh Bell here, and then Escanaba and the Moonlight, which was hilarious. And so, you know, we're taking a different turn here and partnering with Tight Lines for Troops, an organization here that many people are familiar with, and it's a great weekend where we get to recognize a lot of the veterans in our community. Right. And we get a lot of people visiting town as well, so it's a great opportunity to expose them to this great historic theater and to tell a great story that, you know, we're very lucky to have Rick Plummer, who's toured this, and he's very closely connected to this character. You know, he is a veteran himself, and I think that a lot of the veterans can certainly, and the families, and anybody who's a non-veteran can certainly come and learn about, you know, how important of a figure he was during his time. You know?
Absolutely.
And I certainly will have a lot that I'll learn from that as well.
Yeah. Now, can you? What are the prices? I know veterans get in for free.
Yeah.
And what are the ticket prices for families of veterans, just people who want to come see the performance?
It's very affordable. And again, our partnership with Tight Lines for Troops makes this possible. But for families, it's just $5.
Oh, wow.
And for anybody else, for general admission is $8.
Okay.
So it's really a call to everybody to say, come to the theater and come see the show, and learn something about your history.
Absolutely. And it's this Saturday at 7:30?
Yes.
Okay. When do doors open?
6:30 for the building, but 7 o'clock for the theater, so they can find their seats at that point.
Okay, great. And when was this built?
This was 1903.
Okay.
So it's over 115 years old.
Oh, cool.
It's been restored over the last 2 decades. And you know, there's lots of other parts of this building too. So I think if you're new to the Ramsdale in general, I think you'll be amazed to see how large it actually is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's just the theater.
Right.
They don't know, or unless they've been to a wedding reception, they think it's just the upstairs.
Exactly,
you know, so there is a lot more that you can do here at the Ramsdale. And what makes it so special for you to be here at the Ramsdale performing this?
Well, this is a grand old lady, isn't she? She's a beautiful gal. And it's just so delightful to be here with all the history. You feel it. when you're on stage.
Oh, I bet.
As you know, Katie, you're a singer, you're a performer, so you know what it's like when you walk into a space and you feel that atmosphere.
Absolutely.
This is such a warm, inviting theater. It's close. We seat close to 700-800 people here, but it's an intimate feeling. You and the audience have a real dialogue here. And in my show in particular, I reach out and actually touch the audience, if you will.
Oh, boy.
I'm out in the audience briefly for a couple of scenes, but there's a dialogue between the audience and the character in these one-man, one-woman shows. The audience becomes another character in the play.
Cool. Well, it's really awesome that Manistee has kept this, because so many places around the country, around the world, have gotten rid of a lot of historical venues, and it's really a gem. So I'm sure it's great, and I appreciate you coming on and talking with us, and we'll look forward to this program on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Ernie Pyle.
Sure.
What should people know about Ernie Pyle?
Well, he was sort of a rock star in many ways. He was syndicated in 200 dailies, 300 weeklies. He had over 40 million readers. Now, this is in 1942 through 1944. Before that, he wrote an aviation column. He was a traveling journalist. He and his wife toured all over the United States, South America, Canada, writing features for Scripps Howard. And so they were syndicated in lots and lots of newspapers all over the country. One of the things I love about Ernie, and the Roosevelts write about this, and I mean Franklin Delano and Eleanor write about this. Before FDR would go to the war room to get word about what had happened that night during the war, he would read Ernie Pyle first. Oh. Parents, spouses, brothers, sisters, loved ones read Ernie Pyle because they knew they could trust him. He was with the frontline soldiers at the front, and that's where the title comes from, all the time. He didn't sit back with the generals and with the staff behind the scenes. He was right there with the soldiers, and he didn't pull any punches. His writing style is really unadorned. It's strong. It's powerful. And he told the truth, and people responded to that. So he was remarkable. He was presented the Pulitzer Prize in 1944, and for good reason. During the course of the play, I read one of his columns, or most of one of his columns, that really is some of the most powerful writing I think you would agree that you will have ever read. So it's powerful stuff. He was well-loved, respected, admired, and when he was killed on the 18th of April in 1945, the country went into mourning. And in the same way they had just a week and a half before that when FDR died. So he loomed large in the public eye.
And I think because he was so real, and he really told the story from what the soldiers wanted to be told back home. I think a lot of times the media, would kind of be in the background and kind of tweaking things the way that they thought it should be, and I could see why he would be so well respected. And
yeah, he fought against censorship in the same way that our embedded journalists today fight against censorship. And I'm not sure your readers appreciate just how many journalists have been killed in combat over time. As I say, Ernie was killed in 45. There had been journalists who were embedded with troops long before Ernie, some of whom lost their lives. But since then, the number is staggering.
Yeah, and he was killed in Japan, correct?
Well, Okinawa, during the Battle of Okinawa. Okay. He was killed on the 18th of April, just 4 months shy of his 45th birthday.
Wow. And you have something in common with him.
I do.
Your home state.
Well, not only my home state, but my dad grew up in what we called southern Indiana. It was really near Terre Haute. And that's where Ernie's from. Dana, Indiana sits west of Indianapolis.
Okay.
And then just slightly south of that is Terre Haute. And my dad was born in a little town called Paxton.
Okay.
There's a grocery store, I think, there, or was. I don't even think there's anything there now.
Oh.
But there was a grocery store there at that time. So, you know, I have family roots from that same area where Ernie grew up.
I knew your dad.
Yeah.
He was a good guy. He was a cool guy.
He was a great guy.
He was.
And I do this show in his honor, of course. All my uncles, one of my cousins, all fought in the Second World War, along with 16 million other men and women who put on a uniform, took up arms, and did nothing short of saving the world from tyranny 75 years ago.
Well, and they say really that World War II was kind of the turning point, like the most important war that has ever kind of happened, I think, you know.
I'd go one step further. I'd say not only was it the most important war, it was probably one of the world's great defining moments.
Yes.
I mean, we were on a pinpoint at that time. We could have veered into tyranny. We would be speaking Japanese and German right now. We wouldn't be speaking English. Or the converse of that, and what happened.
Right, exactly. So now you are a veteran as well.
Yes.
Vietnam?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you serve for?
Well, I was in Vietnam for 2 years.
Okay. In which branch?
Navy.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and we also are going to have you're going to perform a couple scenes for us. So thank you, Rick. Thank you, Xavier. And then I want to also mention that, quick on side note, Smith & Eddy Insurance always advertises our weather report, and today the weather's supposed to be in the mid-60s. Well, you know, we'll believe the weatherman, hopefully, and remain pretty sunny out today, so thanks to Smith & Eddy Insurance. And also a reminder that if you want to be a guest on The Scoop or a sponsor, you can email our editor, Rob Alway, at editor@MasonCountyPress.com, or you can check us out on Facebook. And again, I want to thank you both. And we're going to now move on to some scenes from Live from the Front, Byline Ernie Pyle.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thanks.
Stardust. Love that tune. That girl, my dear wife, Jerry. That's what I call her in my columns. Maybe you heard me mention her name. We used to listen to it all the time. It's by another Hoosier boy, you know, Hoagie Carmichael. Yes, sir. This here orchard just about as far from Dana, Indiana as a feller can get. Oh, I reckon I'm used to being away from home, though. My years in Washington, wheeling around the U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, South America, writing features for the Washington Daily News. I crisscrossed that country 35 times, wore out 3 automobiles writing those features. Yes, sir, at my age, though, well, the feller feels like settling down for a spell, not always worrying about... I promised that girl that this was going to be my last invasion, and it is. This is absolutely my last time. Behind me is an unbroken record of getting sick in every country I ever visited. So I figured I might as well go ahead and get sick right away in Sicily. My 5th day ashore, they threw me in the back of an ambulance and we set off. We were looking for a clearance station, a certain hospital, but we couldn't find her. Because as we were driving forward, it was driving back. We kept crisscrossing on different dusty gravel roads. We drove 75 agonizing miles and finally found that hospital all set up, ready for business, just 4 miles from where we started out. This clearance station was a small tent hospital of the 45th Division. And what I had was a common illness called battlefield fever. Feller doesn't die of battlefield fever, but he sure thinks he's a-going to. Docs think it's caused by too much dust, bad eating, exhaustion, and the unconscious tension that comes to everybody in the front lines. Yeah. I was put in one of 5 small tents where men were deposited on litters. I lay there for 4 days and nights, and it was a depressing experience. And yet there was something good about it too. I mean, I was nearly flabbergasted to hear those wounded boys cuss and beg to be sent right back into the fight. 45th Division made up largely of fellers from West Texas and Oklahoma. You know, the boys from that part of the country are soft-spoken and drawn, not smart alecks, something about the purity of the soil, I reckon. No, sir, a boy from the plains is slow to criticize, hard to anger, but once he's convinced of the wrong of something, oh, brother, watch out. Now, these fellers are madder about this war than anybody I've seen on this side of the ocean. They weren't so mad before they went into battle, but by then, all the Germans were sons of... Well, you know what I mean. As I lay there, I heard them talking. One of them said, "Well, I reckon I'm going to make her." Then another said, "Have they got any beds in this hospital? Lord, how I want to go to bed." And another, wincing in pain for the deep probing for a piece of buried shrapnel deep in his leg, cried out, "Go ahead, you're the doc, I can take it." And another, seeing a friend, sang out, "Well, I reckon I'll have to write the old lady tonight and tell her she missed out on that $10,000 insurance money again." Dying men were brought into our tent, and their death rattle silenced our conversation, made us thoughtful. When a feller is almost gone, the surgeons had placed a piece of gauze over his face. Oh, he could still breathe, but we couldn't see his face. One of those times, surgeons and chaplains came a-running. That haunted me for days. It still haunts me today. The dying boy was lying there on a cot. The chaplain knelt down beside him and said, "Now, John, you're doing fine. You're doing just fine. And I'm going to say a prayer for you." Well, that stark announcement hit me like a hammer. I mean, he didn't say he's going to say a prayer for him to get better. He just said he's going to say a prayer. And it was obvious he meant the final prayer. That gasping boy tried vainly to repeat the words after the chaplain. And when he was done, the chaplain dashed off on some other call, I reckon. But that dying boy was left utterly alone, lying there on a cot in an aisle. And it was the aloneness of that boy going through the last few minutes of his life that torments me. I mean, I felt like going over there and at least holding his hand while he died. But I didn't. I wish to God now I had. Why didn't I do that? Huh?